you would walk out the door. Hey, said we were done and then someone and rubbed it in my face. Cut to the part she broke your heart and then she ran away. I guess you should've known, I guess you should've known that I would talk. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. Oh, I really don't care. I can't believe I ever stayed up writing songs about you. You don't deserve to know the way I used to think about you. Oh no, not anymore. Oh no, not anymore. You had your shot, but you let go. Now if we meet out on the street, I won't be running scared. I walk right up to you and put one finger in the air and make you understand. You had your chance. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. Even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. Oh, I really don't care. Yeah, listen up. Hey, never look back. Don't your boy ego intact. Look, boy, why you so mad? Second guessing, you should've hit that. Hey, Debbie, you picked the wrong lover. Should've picked that one. He's cuter than the other. I just wanna laugh cause you're trying to be a hipster. Kick it to the curb, take a Polaroid picture. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. Even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. You can take your words and all your lies. Oh, I really don't care. Oh, I really don't care.
Who's doing it today? Who's the culprit? Well, is it the U.S. strike on Russia? Is it the crime around the United States? Is it the U.S. submarine force that got sunk? The bottom line is the American submarine force, the point of the spear of American power upon which so many military plans depend, is unprepared to meet the current threat environment. Is it AI? Is it the food shortages? Maybe it's Mexico City's day zero with no water. Maybe it's World War III. The drums were beaten as the Biden regime to allow Ukraine to use the U.S. weapons inside of Russia, knowing from previous warnings Putin will retaliate against America directly. They definitely will retaliate. Major economic cracks and crackpots. Maybe it's your friends and your family that think you're absolutely crazy for wanting to prep. Whatever it is, maybe it's the cattle crisis that's going to trigger a massive price increase for meat this summer as production collapses and new diseases are rapidly growing and spreading across the U.S. beef cow herds, which is threatening our entire food supply chain. Shit, there's a lot of them. Maybe it's the Biden. Maybe it is the current regime that's in the big old house on the hill. whatever it is, we know that there's a lot of lies happening. And there's a lot of manipulation of the masses, that's for sure. They definitely don't want us to know what they're doing. That happens so many times. The U.S. government playing with all of us and the media, the food shortages, the economic collapse, BRICS. Who the hell is doing what today? Oh, I'll be back on in about 3 minutes. Let's give people a chance to get in. I know this is a pop-up live. I need to schedule a little better, but it's sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. But who really is telling the lies? Who's telling the lies about what? It really makes you wonder.
You wanna play, you wanna stay, you wanna have it all. You started messing with my head until I hit a wall. Maybe I should've known, maybe I should've known that you would walk out the door. Hey! Said we were done and met someone and rubbed it in my face. Cut to the part, she broke your heart and then she ran away. I guess you should've known, I guess you should've known that I would talk. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. So you can take your words and all your lies. I really don't care. I can't believe I ever stayed up writing songs about you. You don't deserve to know the way I used to think about you. Oh no, not anymore. Oh no, not anymore. You had your shot, but you let it go. Unless we meet, I won't be running scared. I'll walk right up to you and point one finger in the air and make you understand. I'll make you understand. You had your chance. But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. So you can take your words and all your lies. I really don't care. I really don't care. I don't care no more. Yeah, listen up, hey, never look back. Dumbstruck boy, ego intact. Look, boy, why you so mad? Second guessing, but you should have hit that.
Hey MJ, you picked the wrong lover. Should have picked that one. He's cuter than the other.
I just wanna laugh. You're trying to be a hipster.
Pick him to the curb. Take a Polaroid picture.
But even if the stars and moon collide, I never want you back into my life. So you can take your words and all your lies. I really don't care. I never want you back into my life. I really don't care. I really don't care.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Oh, has anybody felt manipulated lately? Woo. Media's doing it up. Media, the current establishment, the powers that be. They definitely are doing it up. So I want to bring some information this morning. I'm going to try to start bringing back Coffee with OTWP, which is going to be our morning news broadcast without saying it's the news. You got to trick them. Because they're just, well, somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to do it. We see all these wars and rumors of war, and it's never ending. Jesus, Lord, help us. It's just never ending. It's nonstop. The media and everybody that's so manipulative. We got people all over the place that are being so manipulative of what the masses see, what the censorship is, and who's saying what to who. So I want to talk about a few things this morning. One of them that's pretty big that I think that's going to affect people here in the United States is the cattle crisis. Is it going to trigger this massive situation to where basically people are going to be, it's not going to be sustainable to get meat? Is that going to happen in the United States? The cattle crisis started last year, and we all might remember that when it first occurred, is that people were rushing their cattle into being slaughtered because they were unable to provide food for them. Um, Here in the United States, there was such a big, huge issue with it that people were unable to provide their cattle with the proper feed. So we should have seen this coming. And, it's going to get worse when it comes to the hyperinflation and shrinkflation that's happening around the world, and especially right here in the United States. So many of the common everyday things that people eat are skyrocketed. I went in to a grocery store and I'm just dumbfounded by the shrink inflation that you see on the shelves and the price of like eggs, chicken. Chicken is a staple food for the middle class in the United States. My granddad had some really wise words. I was about 13 when my granddad passed, and he used to say that if they ever wanted to wipe out the middle class, they would start with food shortages and basic things that we're unable to reach. And that's exactly what's happening. Will the United States turn to a complete third world country? So many of us are concerned about what's happening overseas. People are concerned about me traveling overseas. But we have to look at what's happening right here in the United States with. Think about this, folks. The crime rate, I've been reporting on this for 3 years, and the crime rate is off the chart across the country. Every big city is facing major problems because of Trump and because of fentanyl. And are we going to see that more into the rural areas? I believe that the drug epidemic in this country is going to escalate to the point that it's going to put a safety concern on each and every one of us, be it if we're in rural, suburban, it doesn't matter where we're at. I've seen it even in this small town here in Willow Springs where there's drug addicts walking the streets. And there's no other way to say it. They're drug addicts. And the problem with that, the huge problem, is the United States solution is to put people in prison. It's to put people in prison. We also, fast food is becoming a luxury. If you go to Mickey D's, Burger King, Sonic, whatever restaurant it may be, many people are starting to realize that even fast food is becoming very expensive. You can't take two people to Mickey D's or Burger King for 20, $30. I mean, it's a Happy Meal. I mean, it's like for your kid is ridiculous. Not that we really want to eat that all the time, but there's thousands upon thousands of stores closing across the United States. They're permanently shutting down all over the United States because consumers have very little income to be spending on those types of things. So I think that we're going to see that happen more and more. It is the beginning of the collapse of the United States. And as we see this happen, right here in the United States alone, there's over 11 million children that are living in poverty, and there's thousands upon thousands of these stores closing. Little by little, our standard of living has and is eroding around us. A couple decades ago, we had the largest and most prosperous middle class in the history of the world, but now most of the country is struggling. And at this point, fast food is considered to be a luxury. Can you all believe that? That right there should make us really think about this. In the midst of a historic cost of living crisis, those at the bottom of the economic food chain are being hit so hard. The ultra wealthy don't really care that food costs have been soaring. But for all of us that work or on disability, a lot of people are barely scraping by month to month. And it's making a huge, enormous difference. Once upon a time, fast food restaurants were those that were what people that were struggling went there to eat. But now fast food is considered a luxury? Are you kidding me? And that's because the fast food prices have gone absolutely haywire. A Big Mac sandwich, for example, at McDonald's cost $3.99 in 2019. Now that price has more than doubled to $8.29 according to fast food menu prices on an online tracker. And gone again are the $5 foot-long Subway sandwiches. A BLT used to cost $5.50 in 2019. Now it's over $8. And I think that we're gonna see this more and more from I mean, even Chipotle, which I like Chipotle, but it cost $6.50 in 2019. Now it's close to $11 for a Chipotle chicken burrito. Fast food executives, they're pointing to these rising wages and increased costs for ingredients as factors that are driving up the prices on the menu. But, I still can't really wrap my head around this because I never imagined that I would see the day where a Big Mac attack would cost $8, and that's totally insane. Also, LendingTree has put out that almost 80% of all Americans believe that fast food is now a luxury item, and that ever since the current establishment started squeezing the middle class. There was a survey done of about 2,000 adults, and they said that it's like basically what used to be an affordable option for low income workers, but now it's becoming the opposite. The other thing is that really concerns me is the children and the elderly and the disabled here in the United States because American children, there's over 11 million that are living in poverty, and that is really unbelievable. In 2021, they did a survey and did a census, and that census showed at the Children's Defense Fund that that means that 1 in 7 children in the United States, or 15.3%, is living at a poverty level. We see that escalated school lunches, and we also see that school lunches have really went down the tube. So that's really another concern to me. 40% of the entire country is to either they're either considered living in poverty or among the ranks of the working poor. 42 million Americans are on food stamps. 42 million Americans are on food stamps. What happens when they say we're not going to provide food to the American people that are on food stamps? Yeah, yeah, that is true. I think that when it comes to food and the things around us that are really, really important, being able to go to the grocery store and buying some eggs, some chicken, a loaf of bread is important to most people that we can just run in and do that. I've actually noticed, like me personally, I have started watching, okay, am I buying bread? Do I need bread? Do I really want bread? The other thing is that so many of the foods set on the shelves for months and months and months. I'm still dumbfounded by the lady here outside of Willow Springs that told me that chicken eggs set in warehouses 6 months before they hit our gut. And then they wonder why the American people are sick or not feeling well and wonder why diseases are rampant in the United States. We also are seeing the total collapse, the total collapse of American cities. The American cities are like doomed. If I can say anything, is that it's very important if you have an opportunity to get out of the city is to do that. I think that we are being manipulated to spend extra money to get basics. And then also, I have to kind of say shame on you, prepping channels, survival channels, and homesteading channels for telling everybody they have to go buy this and go buy that. I think we're at the point, the most important thing we could do is get out of the matrix. Getting out of the matrix, getting into a living condition where you can actually look at your budget and say, you know what, I have this much left. And it does take some creative work to get to that point that you're actually able to save some money in 2024. Me personally, I've taken on side hustles, extra gigs, extra driving jobs, all kinds of things because ever since I lost my corporate job, I've realized that for the average American, that it is very hard to just replace that income. Back in the 80s, I remember that you could quit a job and go get a new job day in and day out. You could tell your boss to shove it. But at this point in the United States, you better hold on to your job. And do I believe that when there's the next release on the United States, will we get aid from our government? No, I don't. I think that was a trial run. And I think that what'll happen, honestly, is that they'll do something. We'll go back into a lockdown situation or a situation where we're not able to move freely for whatever reason, right? And then that will give them the opportunity to roll in the complete changeover from the American dollars to the CBDC. Once that occurs, that gives our current establishment and our future establishments a way to control every movement we have. If you're bad, if you, and I'm not talking jail or prison, I'm talking you run a red light, you speak out against the government, you maybe go to a protest, and the next thing that we're going to see is that you're going to be have the hammer down on you, and they'll take away that CBDC and control what you can and can't buy. I also think it will be a overreach of this tyrannical government that we currently have to say, hey, we're going to limit how much you can fly, how much you can drive, how much electricity you can use, how much internet you can use. And I think that we will see total control. Maybe not in our lifetime, but that's why we prep is for the future generations. I really personally believe that we will see this happen in the United States. We know that there's certain three-letter agencies around the world that are implementing and taking away from the United States and implementing their policies here without votes, without anything. Our government is, well, we know. That's sad, Sherry. That's really sad. And that's the state of the United States. Um, I think that it's very interesting, and I'm going to have a special guest. We're going to have a live stream, and we're going to have a special guest from overseas. And I want you to hear how they control things over there, what they do. And I'm lining up a set of questions. They're rather nervous to come do it. They feel their English isn't good enough. I feel their English is great. But I want you to hear what's happening in other countries and how they're dealing with crime, how they're dealing with drugs, how they're dealing with people that go out and kidnap or rob somebody. It's really, really interesting. In Montana, there was a senior that was incredibly frustrated because his property taxes increased by 790% over the past several years. Do y'all hear that number? 790% the property taxes went up. A lot of people say, have said over the years, how do they think they'll get how do they think they'll get our land? Well, if you tax someone so much that they have a 790% increase, say they're 68 or 70 years old, how are they going to budget that in? They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to budget that in. And when they can't budget it in, what's going to occur is then they will start seizing property all over this country, which in many countries you can't buy property like we can. But when you think about the manipulation of what's going on around this country and around the world, and we also have to look at media. Media has been bought and sold, and you can line up channel after channel after channel on a TV and on tell a lie. And they say the exact same thing to you. We don't have freedom of speech or freedom of media any longer. That has been shredded many years ago. And I think that as this escalation happens in the United States, we're going to see that more and more. We're going to see the censorship on every platform now. If you talk about a certain subject, they take you down. Why is that? What happened to freedom? What happened to free thinkers? And what happened to being able to do that if you feel like it? It is the bread and circuses. It is, let me give you some peanuts to pacify you while we slowly put you in like frogs in the pot, slow burn them. And I think that, honestly, as I've been reporting the news for the last 3 years here on YouTube, I've realized that there's certain subjects, even if I show documentation, I cannot speak about it. And that right there is a huge problem. As adults, we should have the right, as long as we're not egging on or provoking violence, which I am totally against. It comes down to the point that the only time you use violence is when you're pushed in the corner and you have to, and that is to protect yourself. But if we are speaking as adults over 18 years old, we should be able to have freedom of thought, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and we should definitely have freedom of media. The censorship is definitely out of control. And I agree with you, Sherry. I think honestly that we're going to see this escalate to the point that people will be scared. Ever since J6 happened, which is my birthday, okay? I'll never forget that birthday. Ever since that happened, I think people are on eggshells. Can I say this? Can I say that? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I think that that was a prime way to make people go, I can't speak out anymore. Let's go back and talk to this guy about this guy here a minute. His name is Ryan, and well, no, his name is Kurt. I'm sorry, his name is Kurt. He's on Social Security. He got this price increase on his property, 790%. Right? He said he claims over the past few years, his annual property taxes have soared from $895 to almost $8,000. See, when you put a dollar amount on it, it makes it a little different than you see in a percentage. 8,000. So $900 to $8,000. So it's like paying $700 a month rent to the state to live in your own home. The state of Montana does have an elderly homeowner renter tax credit, but the maximum credit is $1,150. So his property taxes have skyrocketed because property values have skyrocketed, right? So that's kind of how it goes. And if you only have this little bit of leeway and you're getting that high of a price increase, what happens? How do you make that up? See, small business are being monkey hammered right now by inflation as well. And that's why we're seeing so many stores close. Here in Willow Springs, about a year ago, they built a brand new multi-million dollar Family Dollar slash Dollar Tree store. I went into town the other day and I was going to stop in there and pick up a few things. And I pulled into the parking lot and I'm like, this is weird. There's no people here. The store's locked up tight. They were empty in the store full throttle. The store is now empty. When you see a company or a corporation close down thousands of their stores, hundreds of their stores nationwide, there's a huge problem in the economy. When BRICS completely aligns, we talked about the gold rush about 2 years ago and how all these countries started purchasing gold. That should have been the wake up call to many people, is that something major was going to occur. I think over the next few years, I think we're very, very close to the fiat, the American dollar, the petrodollar, however you want to call it, to totally collapse. And I think that when that collapses, that's when we're going to see the United States go full tailspin. The gold rush started a couple years ago. Countries like China, Japan, Korea, Germany, Africa, India, several countries, including Russia, started purchasing gold at profound amounts and stashing it away. So now we're at this point that the gold is not, that the American dollar is not going to be backed by anything. And Dubai and all these rich oil countries are getting off, Saudi Arabia are getting off the American dollar. Why? Because all it is a piece of paper that has been printed so much that it is devaluing very quickly. I believe that once BRICS aligns itself, and gets as many countries to come into BRICS and to abandon the American way of life, the American establishments, is once that happens and we see the country's going to fall. And when we fall, it's going to be hard. Will there be a trickle effect around the world? Probably. But I think the biggest thing is our American dollars will become like Jamaica, where you can throw them in the trash can, use them for litter paper for your cat, whatever. But it's exactly what happened. Your family dollar closed down too. Yeah, and see, it's happening more and more. It is happening more and more. And I really honestly believe that all we're waiting for is the last bit of treasury bonds to come into this country. And once that happens, the last bit of treasury bonds come into this country, it is going to be disastrous, disastrous, um, definitely disastrous for the United States. We have dollar stores that are being hit so hard by rising costs. Also, the 99-cent only stores, they have decided to close all of their stores because conditions have changed so dramatically. For years, dollar stores were a fixture, like probably in every strip mall in California, offering like cheap household goods, bread, produce, and even toys and gifts. But those favorite dollar stores are heading for the exit, and they're heading very quickly. 2024 may be the year that we all sing a different tune. Right now, in April last month, California-based 99-cent only store announced it was closing all 371 locations after being in business for decades. And the retailer blamed the economic factors, including shrink inflation, shifting consumer demand, and it had been faced with so many challenges. Not to be outdone, now Dollar Tree has announced that it will be closing about 1,000 stores, which Sherry just mentioned. I just mentioned Dollar Tree and Family Dollar are owned by the same company. So they're going to close nearly 1,000 stores nationwide, and it's the first time in decades that they've done that. Red Lobster. Yeah, Sherry, that's biblical. Very true. I think that another big thing that's happening to the retail industry, honestly, is ever since they took police and they kind of tied their hands, like you can go in and commit petty theft and there's really no ramifications for it, right? So I think that what happened is once that happened, these gangs of criminals decided, let's go in and loot this store in broad daylight, in people are in the store, and I watched a Coach, purse store, I've watched an Apple computer store, I've watched several stores where they just go in and vandalize and steal, like, nonstop. Um, we have what happened, what was it, a year and a half ago, where they started locking up cosmetics, uh, tools, all kinds of strange things, and even on meat in grocery stores, started putting it in a meat cage. So I think that we're gonna see the total control of all kinds of products. The bad thing, I think, in the United States is as we see these businesses close, it's going to become more and more monopolized around the country. So the large corporations like Wally World, Home Depot, Lowe's, things like that will stay where they're at. They'll do better because then they will have total price control. There will not be this freedom, free enterprise. It will not happen. Wow, it is. The economy here in the United States is in dire straits, dire straits, and we should be able to see this too. A lot of people talked about it maybe 6 months ago and further back, but talked about how AI would start replacing the humans around the world. It's definitely happening. That we have all these countries where farmers are being shut down. Like farmers that have done it generation after generation are no longer. They're just gone. And I think we're going to see, yeah, mom and pop shops. And see, that's where we get into a huge problem, Sherry. That is definitely going to be a huge problem because once all the mom and pop shops are gone And right here in Willow Springs, down in West Plains, also over in Mountain Grove, I've seen signs up. One of them broke my heart. Great store, two-decker store, a huge, huge store. They had a lot of vendors in there. It was like an antique thrift, flea market type store. They had been in business for over 20 years. Once again, I drive over there and I'm like, a sign on the front, thank you for 20 years of business. One of the biggest grocery stores that had been an anchor in Mountain Grove, Missouri, Richard Brothers. They had been there for 3 generations. And I went over there, the hugest grocery store in that area, gone. The competitor of Walmart, gone. And we're going to see that more and more. And I truly believe that once they shred the United States of that entrepreneurial spirit, that spirit of, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to start a retail store, I'm going to start whatever, maybe a little car lot. Once they can manipulate everything to the point that you're unable to do that, that you're unable to open a business, that you're unable to sustain a business, that is where we're going to see the collapse of the United States. Right now, we are at the teeter and we are about to fall. The United States may not get the total EMP blackout, but the United States is getting the blackout from around the world. People are turning their backs on America, saying, y'all have printed off enough money to cause a total collapse in your own country. There is no checks and balances. We also know that this is an election year. It's very important. Or is it? I've always thought about this. You're running a multi-million dollar corporation. Are you going to let the little peasants decide who's going to step up to the plate as the CEO? I think not. And I believe, honestly, what happened with the last election was a slap in the face to the American people to let the American people know you really aren't in control of shit. And you're never going to be, and you never were. But now we're going to put it in your face. Just like a lot of things around this country have been put into the American people's face. A lot of Americans felt like we were the greatest country in the world, that we did so much for people, that we always stepped in. And I'm not going to bash the United States. We have helped a lot of people. In Venezuela, they talk about how wonderful Americans were. If it wasn't for Americans, they would have died because we stepped up with humanitarian aid to provide food during the collapse. But, folks, who will step up for the United States? Who will come to our aid? Or will anybody? It's something to think about as our country is falling. I don't think, oh, there's so many people. There's so many people around the world that hate America. Why do they hate America? See, once upon a time, America, we were the referee. Back in the 1930s and 1940s, America got people to sit down at the table. Different countries that were facing conflicts, the American government really did do a good job. They would sit down with people, other countries and presidents and kings, and say, hey, let's do this, and you two work it out. And they were the referee. Once that changed from referee to police to universal police, we became the bad guy. There's a great I've tried to find it over the last year. There's a great documentary out about how the United States shifted from being this wonderful country that helped people negotiate and get around these obstacles to when we became the universal police. If you think about this put a heavy, heavy burden on the Americans people. Because what happened is we sent more people into the military to protect other countries. When the United States would go in there and beat the shit out of them. And then we would go in and rebuild their country. Where did that money come from? It came from the backs of our grandparents and our great grandparents and ourselves. And that's something that we have to take into consideration as we go in and build a country. Who's paying for that? Is the government paying for that, or is the American people paying for that? It's just like what's occurring at the southern border. Who's really paying the price of what's happening and what's coming across the southern border? Same situation. The border is open for a purpose. The purpose is to replace American workers. The purpose is to cause chaos down the road. The purpose is to bring more sleepers into this country. The purpose is to have more crime and more perpetrators in this country committing crimes against me, against you, against our families. See, once you can have total chaos, you have total control. Once you control the food, you control the people. Once you get the Second Amendment out of people's hands, then it's time to attack. But once you get the American people so weak that they're afraid to stand up, they're afraid to speak out on any platform, then you have control. And once you have control and you've been manipulated and the masses have been led to the edge of the cliff, that's when it will come from shore to shore, from the air, from the EMPs, and we will have blackout. Not blackout, just power grid down. We're going to have blackout of the United States of America. Our way of living is getting shredded. Schools are under attack. Our children, the indoctrination of our children is under attack. They don't speak of liberty and justice for all anymore. People don't stand for this flag of the United States anymore. People don't respect the United States anymore. We are at a turning point in this country to where we'll never go back. This country will never be the same as in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s when people fought for good things. They have taken the lines and blurred the lines so people are so confused. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. Brother against brother, sister against sister, mother against daughter, neighbor against neighbor, community against community. The more chaos you can erupt into a country, the easier it is to slice us at the Achilles heel. We have the Chia Pets buying land around our military bases. Who in their right mind would allow this to happen? We have our national forest being sold out to countries overseas. This is biblical. It is. It is biblical. Are we Babylon? Will our country fall? And how long will it take? We have some hard times ahead of us, folks. Hard times. The most important thing we can do is to learn the skills, learn where to turn in times of trouble. Have a local mag and keep on staying centered, but don't quit living life. Don't live. Don't quit living life. Don't quit having that umph, that American spirit, that that thing that you want to do and you go, "No, I'm not doing it because I'm scared." Don't be scared. We walk in faith and not fear. We have to. And I will say this, the American people are stronger than we give ourselves. It's not our government. It's the people of America that's made America great. Do I think that one president will be better than the other? I think that they are the wings of the same bird. Most importantly, you know, most importantly, is get spiritually centered and keep on doing the legwork no matter what. Don't give up. Don't give in. And don't be so easily manipulated that you believe all the lies. We can't. I want to say that a lot of men, women, being prior Navy, gave their lives. My granddad, maybe your uncles or your aunts, went into the military to fight for this country. And I think they had good intentions. Let us not forget who we are. We are Americans. And no matter what, we've got to learn to stand shoulder to shoulder. Put away if you're a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian. Put away, are you this or you're that? Get back to our roots, that we're Americans and that we're strong. And that flag, that old red, white, and blue flag, stands for something. We are the last country standing, and we're going to be the last one to fall. Don't give up, folks. And remember, it was courtesy of the red, white, and blue. God bless you from here in the Ozarks to wherever you're at. Keep on doing the legwork and keep on doing the things that matter. Because you know as well as I do, they're coming for us. They're coming for us.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop. And his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. When he was born, his family is proud but torn. But if you knew him, you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave. And then he came home with only one hand. He's Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down here to lie. For these stars and stripes, stay